you so much for everyone for being in here today and participating with DC Startup Week. My name is Rachel Kretsky. I'm coming to you live from here at WeWork in downtown Washington, D.C. on the Rhode Island location. I'm one of the organizers of DC Startup Week and a founder myself of a company called UPace. We appreciate you joining us. DC Startup Week is a 5-day conference every September focused on building the startup community. We're in day 1, so it's been very exciting. So we still have 4 full days left. If you have any questions throughout the talk, please put in all caps questions, so that way the moderator is able to easily identify your questions at that point in the conversation. We're so excited to have here today Ryan, a managing director of Techstars, Yemi, Marcus, Jasmine, and Ken talking to us about what is it like from a founder to be a part of like a virtual accelerator program, especially during these times of COVID. How is it supportive, how you're able to evolve your startup with it. So with that, please welcome Ryan and startups teams to the DC Startup Week stage.
Awesome. Rachel, thanks so much for having us. I'm going to be totally upfront and honest and let you guys know that I don't currently live in Washington, D.C., which bums me out. But what's awesome is that I can join DC Startup Week from San Diego, California, which is where I am right now, with a bunch of DC-based Techstars alums. I do have a very special place in my heart for Washington, D.C. as a Georgetown University alum. I spent some of the best years of my life in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, even though I've been able to come out to DC Startup Week for the last 2 years in person, the lack of travel this year means that we just get to join virtually here. So what we wanted to do today is spend some time answering some questions from folks about what it's like to go through a virtual accelerator. If you are currently thinking about applying for an accelerator program for your startup, there is a very good chance that that accelerator is happening virtually. Back in 2017, Techstars launched Techstars Anywhere, which was our first virtual accelerator program. It was a remote first accelerator program, with the idea being that there are founders who, for whatever reason, couldn't or shouldn't relocate for an accelerator program. And as we hit March of this year, one of the things that happened is while we were in the process of running a bunch of in-person accelerator programs, because our number one concern is for the safety and health of our founders and staff, all of our Techstars programs went virtual. And so what we've done today is we brought in some alumni from both Techstars Anywhere and from Techstars Kansas City to talk about what their experience was like going through a virtual accelerator, so that they can answer any questions you might have about virtual accelerators, what it means, how it's different from in person. And so what I want to start with is I'll start with just letting everybody introduce themselves. So if you guys want to take a moment and introduce yourself, your role, your company, and anything else that you want to share, Yemi, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Sure. Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. My name is Yemi Adewunmi. I'm the co-founder and also the chief product officer at Civic. And we offer a software solution for organizations and enterprises that helps them with their government relations efforts and public policy work in their organization. And we are graduates of the Techstars Anywhere program in 2019.
Awesome. Thanks, Yemi. Ken.
Hey, I'm Ken Carnesi, CEO of DNSFilter. We provide a cloud-based security service that protects enterprise employees around the globe from online threats that can be harmful to their organization. And I am based in particular out of WeWork Met Square.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Ken. And Jasmine. Jasmine, you're on mute still. Jasmine is signing her intro. You're muted, Jasmine. Still muted.
Am I better now?
Now you're good. All right, welcome back.
Told me my host needed to unmute me. Well, I'm Jasmine Jones. I'm the CEO of Cherry Blossom Intimates, a first of its kind, fully accredited medical business that helps breast cancer survivors to be fit for bras and prosthetics in a new way. So we house their fit services in a lingerie boutique, and we offer custom breast prosthetics. So a woman who's lost her breast can purchase a breast that comes in 36 different skin tones. We can even customize freckles and add veins if she like, but all of that is housed in a store that looks like a lingerie store.
And Jasmine, you just finished at Techstars Kansas City, right?
I did. I finished Techstars Kansas City, but I did it all from the comfort of my home. So this has actually been supreme blessing kismet kind of experience.
Awesome. Thanks, Jasmine. And Marcus Bullock.
Hey everyone, I'm Marcus Bullock. I'm the CEO and founder of Flikshop. We built the technology that helps families stay connected to their incarcerated loved ones. Our users are able to use our mobile app that allows them to be able to add a picture, type some quick text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print that picture and text on a real tangible postcard, and we ship it to any person in any prison, anywhere in the country. Super pumped to be able to be here. And
Super pumped
to be able to be here.
Super pumped.
I work out of Navy Yard, so I'm on the other side of where Ken works.
I want to come work with you guys all out in Washington, D.C. as soon as I possibly can. So first of all, you guys, thanks for joining us today. What we want to make sure of is that those of you who have joined us, that you've got a chance to ask whatever questions you want. And so while we've got some questions teed up for this panel that we'll walk through today, please jump in, drop questions into the chat. We will make sure that we get to them. We've got until the top of the hour, which for me is 1 o'clock in the afternoon out in San Diego, 4 o'clock for y'all. And so we'll make sure that we get everything covered and all of your questions answered between now and then. So one of the things that we get asked a lot about companies that are considering doing an accelerator program is if they are at the right stage. And now y'all were at different stages when you started coming in to do your Techstars accelerators. And so I was wondering if you could just kind of level set for everybody so that they get some context here. Where was your company at, and what were the things that you were focused on or struggling with or thinking that you wanted to get out of an accelerator when you came in? So let's talk a little bit about stage. Ken, can I start with you?
Sure. So in that we went through in 2018, so early 2018, we were 4 or 5 employees doing around 6,000 or 7,000 a month in revenue. And I think what we were looking to get out of it was, just some guidance. We already had a product. We were doing some sales. Myself and my 2 co-founders were committed already to the business full time, but none of us had really done any real fundraising before. And we thought it would be a good way to get experience on how to grow the business. What are we thinking about in order to position ourselves for investment, and then how to deal with said potential investors once we were post-program. And it proved really valuable for that.
Awesome. Marcus, you were a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah, we were really early. We were just starting to, build out product market fit for our mobile app. And while we were post revenue, we were still trying to figure out even how to build out teams. So learning how to build our team, learning how, I'm a non-technical founder. So, figuring out how to onboard and build out technical talent. I could talk a little bit about that. And even learning how to build out the systems that allow us to be able to build a scalable business. At first, we were like hustlers, going hard, ensuring that we were getting downloads and, people were sending postcards, but how to actually build strategy around the company to ensure that we were building a scalable model. That was key for us. And we started begin that journey. We got into Techstars.
Cool. And Jasmine, tell us what stage you were at.
So we were pretty far along in terms of revenue. I think we were topping up around $360,000 in pure sales from inception after only being open and in business for about a year. But we had a small team. So I am co-founded with a breast surgeon, and breast surgeons get really busy. So a lot was falling onto my plate. So when I went into Techstars, I was a solo founder through the program. I was really there to figure out how to hire a team and build a really great team around me, and then figure out how we could start raising funds from investors.
And then Yemi, why don't you just level set for everybody on Civic Eagle?
Yeah, so for us, Techstars is actually our third and a half accelerator. The year prior, we had gone through what we'd call a pre-accelerator. We were even earlier, and we had gone through another accelerator that was more in our industry and focused on political technology companies. So that gave us a different set of perspective on growing the business. By the time we started Techstars, we'd raised about $300K through those programs, and then also through some angel investors. And we're a small team of, just me, my business partner is my CEO, and our CTO, the 3 of us, as well as Shantara, who's our Chief Strategy Officer. We would, we attended we went through the Techstars program, just the four of us, and really we're focused on trying to figure out how to build systems. Like we knew that we had a really strong MVP, we had some customers, but we really didn't know how to start creating systems to make that scale. And through the program, we've learned all those lessons, as well as a lot of lessons in fundraising and how to start tackling that as well.
And now y'all had a remote team to begin with. Demolo was in Atlanta, you were in DC, Shantae and Jesse were in Minneapolis. Like, did the fact that you were already a remote team play in your decision to do a virtual accelerator? Because you didn't have to do it. There were other in-person accelerators that were still happening back in 2019 when you guys went through.
Right. It definitely was a huge factor. We really liked that the program had flexibility of location. Even though we are a remote team, if we did need to come together, the costs associated with that would have, made it a little bit less accessible for us. But we had the advantage of being also very familiar with how we work with one another remotely, and how we continue to build a team culture while being in different cities. So I think it definitely was a bonus that the program was remote.
And so for the rest of it, like, what were the key things you were thinking about when you decided to do a remote accelerator? Jasmine, for you, is kind of, there weren't a lot of other options, and it wasn't even really what you signed up for. Like, what made you decide remote, and like, why Kansas City?
Well, I actually met Lisa, who's my managing director at Techstars Kansas City, at a global pitch competition that I won. And I just met her when I was in line for food and drinks, and we hit it off. I didn't know who she was at the time. But when I was invited to interview, I was really excited about Techstars Kansas City. But when I realized I'd have to be spending 13 weeks there, I got a little scared. I didn't want to leave my team for 13 weeks. And I was really afraid. Washington, D.C. is so far away from Kansas City. I was really afraid that something was going to happen when I wasn't there. And I contemplated having to turn it down. But because of COVID and the impact of that, and the program deciding to become completely virtual, it actually allowed me the opportunity to say yes and be able to take it from the comfort of DC. So some days I would have to run into the physical space that we have, the brick and mortar, and help out. But if it weren't for COVID and if it weren't for this pivot, I probably would not have been able to accept the opportunity this year. So it really worked out in a silver lining kind of way.
Yeah. Awesome. And Marcus, tell us a little bit about kind of like your thoughts on joining a virtual accelerator.
I mean, it was virtual or nothing for us. I mean, because I'm married and I have a family with 2 small children, and my wife would have gone crazy if she would have told her for 3 months and left her with the 2 small babies at home. So we applied for the Anywhere Accelerator, and it was interesting because when we applied, we knew that we were going to be up against a different competitive landscape versus having a very concentrated, group of entrepreneurs in a certain locale. We were like, oh man, like this is going to be open up to anyone in anywhere. Like this is going to be very challenging. So we knew we were up against that, but I was so grateful when we got accepted.
I was stoked that you got accepted too. Ken, and you guys had like a little bit of a different situation because one of your co-founders had actually already been through Techstars once before. You had already started a company once before, and so you guys are looking at this thing kind of from a little bit of a different lens. Like, walk us through kind of like your thought process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for one thing, we needed the guidance, right? And like Techstars had a good record, the recognized name, huge network, and everything, and that was like primary number one thing for us. And then second was location. So we all lived in different locations. I was in DC, co-founder in New York, other co-founder in South Carolina, and one of them even had a family. So it was really tough to pack up and move somewhere for 3 months or more, and that pushed us over the edge. But as far as like why we did it when one of our founders already had been through once or twice, it was really because we wanted to all be on the same page. Like it was great for him that he went through, but it made a tremendous difference for us all to go through the same experience, have the same teachings and learnings. And like after the fact, I actually find myself wishing that, there could be other opportunities to have like more employees at the company go through the same thing that we all did.
Applications are open. You can apply again.
Well,
You have a good
are you
chance.
saying you'd accept me?
Now it's competitive out there, Ken. So the whole concept of a virtual accelerator is still relatively new, right? Techstars Anywhere has been running since 2017. There's a lot of programs that are currently in this transition period, and so there's a lot of things that were being figured out, are still being figured out, and are still being optimized around. And like any good startup, right? Like you work with your customers, you find out what they need, you try something, you try it again, you iterate over and over again. Like, what concerns did you have going in? And Ken, I'll start with you this time. Like, what concerns, fears, whatever, were kind of the little things that were.
Well, I mean, I guess normally I would have been concerned about the remote aspect, of course, but we were already working remote. So, to be honest with you, I don't think we really had any, because I think it felt kind of low risk. Like the fact that we didn't have to pack up and commit to moving for 3 or 4 months. If it didn't work out, honestly, it was pretty low risk. We didn't go anywhere. So I didn't have any concerns, and it worked out.
And what about you, Marcus?
I mean, but on the flip side, though, Ken, I mean, to help, give context, our program, so everyone else, all the folks listening, Ken and I, we were in the same cohort. And Ken is Ken is brilliant, and their team is freaking incredible. Our program wasn't completely remote. It wasn't 100% remote.
That's right.
So you still, because we had 1 week out of each one of those months where we would still have to fly to Los Angeles, and then Boulder, and then San Francisco. We ended the program in San Francisco. So there were some moments where the teams had to get together and meet up.
How'd that work out? Because you had 2 small kids at home, Marcus. What's that hybrid experience like?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was acceptable. We came in, and honestly, we came in thinking we didn't know what we didn't know, right? And so we didn't know what to expect when we got in. What we did know that we knew that it was going to be intense, because we continued to hear that word over and over again. And even then, we didn't understand what intense meant. And because when we got to Mentor Madness, there's a level of there's intense, and then there's Mentor Madness. You know what I mean?
Can you explain Mentor Madness real quick, just so that if people don't know, help them know?
Yeah. So within 2 weeks, and Ken, any of you guys jump in, if I'm wrong here, but if it was within 2 weeks, we had 70 meetings within 2 weeks. It was literally 7 or 8 20-minute meetings every day for 2 weeks straight, from the time I rolled out of bed until we literally had a 5-minute gap in between each one of the meetings, and then I think we had a 30-minute or so, to eat, grab some lunch, and then we would jump right back into meetings. And then it was interesting because for the first week we thought we were doing it all right, and then we realized we could leverage it better the second week, and we did a better job at it. So that was interesting. I could talk to that if you want. But going through that level of intensity, of intense programming, one, it gave us the opportunity to be able to articulate the business in different ways to different groups of people. And I thought that was cool to be able to have rapid feedback and then constant iteration. You think about Agile, and then there's Mental Madness Agile. So that was pretty cool.
Jasmine, when Marcus was talking about the intensity, you were nodding your head pretty vigorously in agreement there. One of the questions we get a lot is a virtual accelerator less intense or less rigorous than an in-person accelerator? Marcus's reaction is great. Jasmine, talk us a little bit about the intensity and kind of how the intensity felt.
It was incredibly intense. So my program just wrapped, and all of this was happening during COVID and also during the protests. So I lived on a busy street on Wisconsin Avenue in DC, and there would be marches outside of my window all the time. There was actually looting in the buildings and the retail underneath my apartment one day. And I was like, I have to get out of here, because Mentor Madness starts on Monday. So I found an Airbnb in suburban Florida, and I cooped up in an Airbnb for 2 weeks during Mentor Madness. And my managing director said, you know, if you got to get someplace quiet where you can focus, you need to get there by Monday, because this is going to be the most intense 2 weeks of your life. And it was. So I'd wake up from this Airbnb, I'd walk to the living room, I'd prop up my computer, and I would talk to mentors, some of the best in the business, people from Priceline, from Yelp, from all these incredible companies. And I'd have 20 minutes to tell them what we do and ask them for advice or connections or networks. And then that's it. Then the call's over and they were whisked out of my room. So it was incredibly intense, but it was a lot going on in the world around me. And I appreciate that it was virtual and that my managing director could give me that heads up and let me know, like, hey, you need to be super prepared and super focused, because it will be the most incredible time of your life. And it was hugely beneficial. So.
I think one of the things that's really interesting about it is this concept of kind of like intensity, but the fact that it's like virtual and remote gives you the kind of flexibility that you need in order to be able to manage whatever's going on in life around you, right? Like you've got the ability to, you know, pick up off of Wisconsin Avenue and relocate to Florida, which is not something that you'd be able to do if you had to be into a particular location. And so like that's kind of like a little bit of a contradiction, right? Like it's super intense, but with this flexibility to be able to integrate it into whatever else it is that you've got going around you right now. Yemi, one of the things that Jasmine and Marcus just brought up was this concept of mentorship. And mentorship is kind of like a key part of most accelerators or incubators. Talk to us a little bit about the relationships that Civic Eagle formed with some of your mentors, and if there's any highlights or stories or anything like that that stand out about the mentor relationships you built.
Yeah. So once you get through the mountain that is, you know, Mentor Madness, or if you're in a program that has another sort of, you know, network and mentor-based programming, you know, finding people that can give you, you know, advice within the right context, you know, within the right time and place of your business is really valuable, because they can, even though they won't give you all of the answers, you know, no one can. It's really just good to have smart people behind you rooting for you, who are always down to, you know, spend an hour with you once, you know, whether it's once a week, once a month, once a quarter, to give you feedback and just bounce ideas off of. So I still keep in touch with my direct mentor. The way that we approached mentorship when we went through Techstars was, you know, knowing that each of us as co-founders and people and operators in this business need, you know, our subject matter experts to be able to guide us. So for me, I was really focused on finding marketing and product help. And I still keep in touch with my mentor today. Actually, even today, she posted that she's hosting a marketing webinar, and, you know, I'm over there commenting and sharing the post for her, because it is a very much a relationship, you know, two-way street where you have the opportunity to learn a lot from someone, but they also have the opportunity to, you know, get your perspective as an early founder, and also expect you to support the work that they're doing. So that's one example. Another example that we, you know, that came from our mentor experience was that one of our mentors from Mentor Madness ended up investing in our seed round. So you have the opportunity there too, if you find a mentor who can really advocate for you on the fundraising side, and, you know, they're advocating for you, they're helping you figure this out. And when they have the light bulb click and, you know, figure out that they want to invest as well, it's also just really, you know, an exciting experience. It's great to have their advice as well as, you know, their mentorship.
Awesome. Ken, I want to talk a little bit about kind of like the remote bit of it, because remote's kind of like a hot topic in work right now. And you went through Techstars Anywhere with 4 people. How many people are you at now?
We're about 30.
30. So you guys have been growing like pretty significantly since Techstars, and you still run a fully remote team. Like, what are some of the things about being remote that folks that are just starting out, like back maybe where you were, where you had 4 people at the time, that help kind of establish like rhythms to being remote? And what are kind of like some of the key tips or tricks as a manager, as a founder, and as a CEO that you used when you just started out, when you were growing your team, both through the accelerator and then beyond?
Sure. Well, I think communication is definitely the biggest aspect of it all, for sure. Like being clear communicators and clear on what expectations you have out of your remote employees is very, very important. If there's an international component, like only 60% of our team is in the US, so we you know, go pretty far out there in terms of time zones. I think it's important to keep within a certain time zone, I'll say, we have a rule that we don't really hire anybody outside of about 6 hours away. That way we can have good enough overlap. And also, I think as a founder, it helps if you can bring on employees that have some experience already working remote. And the funny thing is, like, funny enough, this pandemic actually making everybody work remote has made it such that, like, the new employees we're bringing on board, it's actually working out a lot easier than it was pre-pandemic because everybody has remote work experience now. So yeah.
And then Jasmine, you actually had like a physical location, like when you started going through. So what were the biggest changes between the way that you were running your business and then the way that you ran your business once you started doing the remote accelerator?
Trust. So a lot of things used to fall back on me. And during this time, I told my team, I'm in Kansas City. So if it's an emergency, I can be there. But if it's not, I trust that you all can figure it out. And Slack was a big help. Because we were all in Slack with Techstars, I just opened up a new Slack channel for my team, and any questions they had, I was already in the software program so I could answer them. But those were the two major changes. I just had to be able to trust my team. And the benefit from that, though, is after it was over, I was able to give promotions to my team members because they did such a great job and showed responsibility, and it took workload off of me. So it actually helped to grow my business. So instead of me having to physically work the business, I was able to work on it and build it out to be something bigger than it could have been before.
That's awesome. We've got some questions that are coming up in the chat, which is awesome because I love that because it means I don't have to ask all the questions anymore. And so, Marcus, I want to send this one to you. And then the question, this is from Shaheb. The question is from Techstars. What was the learning that made the biggest impact on your business?
Shaheb, man, I mean, I'm probably the wrong one to answer this question. Again, I was so early. So like almost all of the learning made a massive impact on my business. The things that stick out to me though, were probably the parts of the program that were not program labeled. So like while one of the big things about being inside of Techstars is that I was able to be around a bunch of other incredible entrepreneurs. And being around a bunch of other credible entrepreneurs, I talked about a lot of it earlier, right? Like I'm a non-technical founder. And so we were around a bunch of technical people. In fact, one of the folks from out of, I know, right, Ken? One of the folks out of Ken's team, actually, we were on a plane together to Boulder, Colorado, to one of our, and he hopped in an Uber with me and was like, yo, I'm gonna go back to your hotel so that we can go and look at some of your code, right? Like that's an intangible. That's something that I couldn't have accounted for. And what ended up happening was a series of conversations that led to, not only Brian helping out, but then, bringing Mike on and having folks having a real inclusive conversation about Michael. And then in the back of the van, someone else jumps in and they talk about what's happening on, So that was a big part of it. The things that were probably like programming that stick out to me, like, so one, the financial modeling session, like that was my number one. I learned so much. I had never heard of a financial model before I got into Techstars. And so like, that was like, oh man, mind blowing. And then I remember like some of the pitch sessions, Techstars, like, so one, Ryan was my managing director, and Ryan literally can pitch your business. I don't care what business it is, better than you can. It doesn't matter what company you own. It doesn't matter how long Ryan's known you. Give Ryan 30 seconds to learn about your business, and then it's it, right? So like learning the different strategies around pitch and like real tactical items on how to deliver a pitch and what to say inside your pitch, that how to go from having the, what they call investor, you get into Techstars, you'll learn about this, right? But like investor happy ears and going from that to learning how to actually close and work on an investor. We're raising a seed round now, and there are things that tactically I learned, for one, out of the Venture Deals book. If you haven't read it, go pick that up. That I'm able to deploy now. And I'm like, oh man, I remember, like they were busting me in the head and banging me and trying to make me remember this when we were in program. So those are things top of mind that jump out.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus. Yemi, you had mentioned that Techstars is actually like the third accelerator that you went through. And somebody here, Ashley, is asking, what are the things that should be considered when choosing a virtual accelerator or deciding if it's right for my business?
Yeah, it's hard to know what you don't know, but try to start there, and because every accelerator will have, its strengths. It's known whether it's regionally, it might be, might have a strong network within a certain part of the country or a certain city. You might be looking for an accelerator that has more of a mentorship based program to it. I know there's other accelerators that have, that have different objectives and have different formats for how they reach those objectives. For us, it really came down to, where we were when we applied for our first accelerator. We were very early, and it really helped us figure out our MVP. It gave us that opportunity to focus full time, and really just ask questions and test and do a lot of interviews. Actually, that program really helped us. We banged out maybe 100 user interviews within the course of that program. And from there, we were able to get to an MVP and be able to apply to an accelerator like Techstars. If we had applied to Techstars earlier, we wouldn't have gotten in. Our business just would not have been where it needed to be to apply and be successful. So really having an assessment of what you need, what the expectations are of that accelerator. And if you're not quite there yet, don't necessarily be discouraged. Just realize that there are some things you have to figure out in your business. And there are other resources to find that, whether it's an incubator. Some accelerators are more founder focused, so it's not necessarily your business going through the accelerator, it's you as a founder going through the lessons and mentorship around being an entrepreneur. And then there's some that are subject matter or industry specific. So like I mentioned, we joined one that was specifically about political technology, and the other companies in our cohort were also in that industry, and so it really helped reinforce the systems that work specifically for our types of companies. And so there are some that are targeted for ag tech or fintech. Really think about what your business needs in the moment, and don't get discouraged if you're not there yet. There's always another place to kind of fill that gap and get those lessons. I kind of equate accelerators to matriculating through university or grad school, right? There's some programs that are very specific to an industry. There's some that are, some programs that are more general and a little bit more broader around starting a startup.
I think the way that I would sum that up, Yemi, is think about what it is that you're hoping to accomplish in your accelerator and find an accelerator that's a good fit for that, right? So if it's an industry, or if it's a region, or if it's a particular topic, you can do that. Think about the network that you want to be building. What kind of network do you need to have in order for this business to become successful? And then I am going to take exception with one thing that Yemi said. Yemi said that if we were a little bit earlier on, we probably wouldn't have gotten in. You have no way of knowing that, Yemi, because one of the things that we really look at is who are the founders that are starting this business? Because the reality is everybody's there's a curve, right? And different companies are just at different points on that curve. And some of them are a little bit further along and some are a little bit further behind, but everybody's on that curve. And so I think one of the things that a good accelerator does is it'll help you understand where you are on that curve and how does it help you move along that curve faster, right? Doesn't guarantee that you're going to get up to the top. It doesn't guarantee that you're going to wind up moving faster. But one of the things that a good accelerator will do is it'll help you figure out what are the things that I need to do to move along this curve. So, at Techstars, you're never too early, you're never too late. And so I think it's important just to recognize that you should be thinking about what it is that I need to get out of it. What kind of network do I need to build? I do want to ask another question, and this is one that I'm going to give to Ken and Marcus, because you guys have some different things here. There is a question here that said, from Arsalan, said, how did being involved with Techstars increase your reputation? And I'm going to tweak that question just a little bit, because first of all, post Techstars, Marcus, you've become a minor celebrity. Ken, you're not a minor celebrity yet, but you've gone through and raised a couple of rounds of financing. And so I think that there's several things that happen post Techstars after you've been through it that help your business even long after the program. And so I'm going to kind of rephrase the question a little bit that way and let both of you guys have a shot at that. So Ken, can we start with you, kind of the value that came post Techstars?
Yeah, sure. We'll wrap it up with the celebrity, but I'll kick it off. I think I think we took full advantage of it. Like as soon as we got in, we're a Techstars company on every single thing that we did, from investor decks to our website and everything. I think it actually, if I had to put it one way, it feels like it's almost like having a rating from the Better Business Bureau or something like that for investors. Like, they know that you had to reach a certain bar to get into Techstars, and that when you exit, the bar is going to be set only higher. And so, yeah, it's helped tremendously to go in. I felt like a lot of doors opened up after they felt that, we went through it, or had been accepted. So it was tough, but it was worth it. It made life a little bit easier, I think, afterwards to get in front of investors.
Awesome. Marcus?
Yeah, I'll say, this ride has been incredible. I'm living on the cloud. I can't believe it. What I will say, Techstars definitely, like, I couldn't say it better, Ken. Like, it's like the A rating, right? Like, it added such a tremendous amount of credibility to our business. When I walk in rooms now, still, the sticker that I have on the back of my computer, still, like, even in certain rooms, I'm very intentional about breaking my computer out, even if I'm not going to use it, because I need to use the Techstars sticker on the back of it. Because what it does is it validates, like Ken says, it adds a level of credit. It validates and says, wait a minute. So if you're an actual Techstars company, then someone in, like, literally the best in the world has said, you know what, you're at least worth listening to as you start this conversation. So tell me, Marcus, what is Flikshop? And it allows for us to have a conversation. Now, interestingly enough, same Marcus, same Flikshop, right? A few weeks before Techstars, we didn't have that same kind of credibility. Added to that, I have some other layers in my background. We won't get into a bunch of, the Flikshop work, but I have some layers in my background with me being a convicted felon that would preclude me from being inside of a lot of rooms. Where now Techstars, it said, wait a minute, but you're a Techstars company, so we will listen to you. And I think that, so to go your ask question, yeah, like it helped out a lot. I still use it. I leverage it.
I'm glad that you do.
You got Techstars hoodie on. Go to me with Techstars hoodie on.
So one of the things that's kind of like a traditional part of an accelerator and incubator is demo day. And when you do a virtual accelerator, there is no stage, like there's no lights, nobody's giving you a hug and a high five and telling you what a great job that you did up there today. Because we do an online demo day. And Jasmine, like, you're just coming fresh off of this experience. Like, walk us through kind of like, what is an online demo day and what kind of expectations should a founder have around doing a virtual demo day?
Well, first I stacked a lot of boxes on top of each other, and then I put my laptop on top so I could get the right angle so I could film it. I'm joking, but I really did do that. But virtual demo day, the benefit is that you can practice it as many times as you need to, and then press record, and then just speak into your computer and put it together and make it the best that it can be. But yeah, you're right. There is no room full of people cheering for you, but the benefit is that it lives now online forever in this package that you had time to get right. So for us, that was incredibly important and helpful. Techstars did a great job in having a person come in and teach us how to set up our cameras, how to best project our voices, and how to get our message across very clearly in the 8 minutes or so, 4 minutes, 5 minutes or so that we had.
You were about 4.5.
4.5 minutes that we had. And then once we had that, we knew that it was our best selves that lived on the internet forever, and we could share it, I think, with more people. My parents are here in DC locally, and while they would have probably flown out to Kansas City, my whole team could not have. So my team could not have seen it go live. Your great aunt who lives over there who couldn't come to a demo day, she now has the link that she can just log into a Zoom call like this online and still be proud of you. So we were able to open it up for a lot of people who probably would not have seen it before, and make sure that we got it right. And there was no stage fright. There was just like push send fright, but no stage fright.
Do you mind if I share your demo day page with everybody?
Oh my gosh. No, I don't mind.
All right, there you go. That's how you guys can go ahead and see Jasmine's recent demo day pitch. So Awesome. I'd love to go through and first of all, just remind everybody like to put questions into the chat. There's a couple that are kind of like Techstars program process specific that I want to reserve, like maybe like 5 minutes at the end, just to kind of like go through and make sure that we've got those answered. And so what I want to do is like, first of all, invite everybody again to go ahead and put questions into the chat so we can make sure that we get anybody's questions answered. I want to go through and just kind of like have everybody give us a post Techstars. Jasmine, this is still kind of fresh for you. So post Techstars is being measured currently in weeks. But for Ken and Marcus, you guys are like 2 years out. Yemi's 1 year out. I'll start with Yemi, and then just kind of like, I'd love for you to just kind of like give everybody an update on what's happened since your Accelerator program wrapped up, just so you can get a sense of kind of what to expect, you know, in the time after you're done. So Yemi, we'll start with you.
Sure, yeah. So today we're a team of 12 full-time employees. When we started the program, we were a team of three and a half. So, and it's been a year. Last year, we had raised a seed round, and so that enabled us to grow our team. We came out of the program knowing very much like what we needed to get done next in order to raise our next round of capital. And I kind of spoke to it earlier. It was really about, it was around figuring out systems for our process, and especially on the sales side. So we grew our team strategically there, as well as brought on more full-time engineers. We are still focused on growth and acquiring more customers. Product development, we're in a really good system right now with you know, our product and engineering workflow. So I think we're in a good place. We're really just excited to start 2021 with more new customers. So I'm focused this quarter on marketing and figuring out how to open up our top of funnel leads. But I'm empowered by a lot of the resources from Techstars to reach out for help in those areas that I'm not aware of.
Awesome. Thanks, Yemi. Marcus, how about you?
So since Techstars, you know, I've been having a bunch of fun building the team. When we were going through Techstars, we were a team of 2. Today we have a team of 6. So that's been exciting. The building out product side, we launched an additional enterprise solution after our direct to consumer product started. We got out of some of that tech debt that I talked about earlier. So excited about stabilizing the company and watching revenues climb. COVID helped us out a little bit. You know, families were looking for a solution to, you know, to other than, you know, these expensive collect phone calls. And so, you know, these tablet fees. And so we were the solution provider for a lot of those closed visiting rooms inside of facilities around the country. We opened up a seed round in the bottom of 2019. Opened up $1 million round, and we're excited about, we're about 60% of that. We ended up having to pause around like in March because, you know, it was March. And so now we started pick back up last month, and we have some good traction. So I'm excited about that. Yeah, I'll pause there.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus. Ken?
Yeah, things have been good. I think when we got out, we were like maybe 5 or 6 people and like 360,000 ARR probably. So immediately when we got out, we got to fundraising and we closed out a pre-seed round, grew the product and business for about a year. We closed the 3.2 million seed round last November. And now we're like 30 employees. I think we've got 14,000 businesses using the product, over 3 million in revenue, and probably close out this year at like 40 employees and 4 million, opening another round at the end of this year, and probably double employee and revenue count next year, I would imagine.
Awesome. And Jasmine, I know that it's still fresh. So, how's it gone since you finished? And maybe look ahead, kind of like some of like your key goals for the next upcoming couple of months.
Yeah, we've actually had significant growth since Techstars because I was able to empower my team. They all got promoted yesterday. So anyone who had increased responsibility is now a ring up, and we're able to bring other people. Thank you guys. We were able to bring other people to support them. We're also now bringing on a CFO that I met through the program at Techstars, and a CTO that I met during the experience as well. And then we'll be closing a seed round very soon from mentor mentors that I met during Techstars or connections that I met during Mentor Madness. So it's been a really great asset to our business. I wouldn't trade the experience. I would probably not do anything physically differently. I really appreciated the remote experience. I'm glad that I decided to go to Kansas City and figure out what that looked like for my business, because it accelerated us beyond compare.
So nobody's asking questions, you guys. I want people to ask questions. So, because we blocked time out for it. But I do want to give everybody just kind of like one last shot here, which is, if you could give one piece of advice to a founder that was thinking about going into a virtual accelerator this fall, what would be that one key piece of advice? And it can be about the accelerator, it can be about the business, it can be about, personally as an entrepreneur, like whatever you think would have the most impact.
Only one?
You can give two. Everybody else only gets one though.
Okay, I'll go then. I would say get an Airtable account and start to get super organized on the back end, because things are going to start moving so fast that you just need to start throwing data, compiling data, keeping comparative spreadsheets, all that stuff would be super helpful. And secondly, I'd say go into it fully focused. Don't allow any distractions to get in your way. Don't look left, don't look right. Just sort of stay the course of Techstars while you're in it for 13 weeks. And I'm going to sneak a third one in there. Sleep on the weekends.
There you go. Who else has a piece of advice?
I'll go. So I think that those were all, I agree so far with those. I would definitely, I think what Ryan said earlier about like knowing what you want to get out of it is super important. Otherwise, I think you're kind of wasting everybody's time if you don't do that. But additionally, I would say, when you're picking, I would really look at who the mentors are involved in the program, like more so than where they're at or what they're focused on or anything like that. Like Techstars Anywhere, I could be wrong here, but I don't think there really was a focus on any one particular industry or anything like that. And that scared me a little bit, I suppose. But then when you look at who is there to actually help you, and there's dozens, if not probably close to 100 different mentors to choose from, you could always find somebody who's like, in your specific space. I think it's important to know that for sure.
And just a note for everybody, just to get a sense, there are some accelerators that are going to have a very focused mentor pool. There are some accelerators going to have a much more like generalist mentor pool. Techstars Anywhere happens to be a generalist mentor pool. And even the program that Jasmine went through in Kansas City, there's a focus on Midwest-based mentors, although there's others that are around who, because of the virtual nature of the program, are now able to participate. And so with Techstars Anywhere, it's a generalist mentor pool. Most of our mentors are previous founders themselves. They've started companies. Some have done really well. Some are still on their way to doing really, really well. We've also got investors. There are typically subject matter experts like marketing people or PR people or technical people or lawyers or bankers or like other folks that can help out with things. And so it's a really good question to ask the managing director or the program runner for whatever program you're going through, is what does this network look like that I'm about to join? Yemi or Marcus, closing bit of advice.
Yeah, to piggyback off of, I'll say yes and to both what Jasmine and Ken mentioned, but time management overall, just figuring out systems for yourself, and being transparent and open with the people around you about like what you're committing to for the upcoming 3 months. That kind of speaks to time management and the fact that you will need to be 100% focused. You're of course going to want to continue to operate your business, and so that's just going to limit your personal time. It's going to limit your ability to do other things. So, but when you tell people that you're going through this experience, this program, folks become supportive. Folks understand that this is really important, and so time management is definitely one of the biggest challenges for going through an accelerator while also building your business.
Marcus,
on my side, so if you're a founder, just know it can definitely be a lonely journey. You're not alone in feeling how lonely it can be. So just know that. Two, like I think that this is if you're considering getting into one of these types of accelerators, especially more specifically with Techstars, be open and flexible to the advice, but also watch out for the mental whiplash that you'll continue to hear about throughout the sessions. You're going to get a bunch of mentors that are going to pull you one way and other ones that are going to pull you the other. And it's going to happen rapidly. It's literally, you know, Jasmine talked about the meetings, like it'll happen in meeting 1 and then meeting 3, it'll be completely conflicting advice. And so you're going to have to be the one that discerns which direction you want to go in. Going back to Ken's things, like, you know, knowing what you want to get out of it and what you want to be able to allow you to be able to have that, to maximize that level of discernment. But also the last one is, don't be afraid. This is the best time to be able to throw the dirt of your business on the table. This isn't the time to try to prove how incredible you are. This is the most optimal time to say, look, this is where I'm failing horribly, right? Because you have, you know, a group of people who want you to win and want you to succeed. They're not only invested in your success, but they literally just want you to win. And so, this, you know, Techstars has, you know, a thing, you know, say that give first, and they walk into the doors with this. So if you have the opportunity to allow them to give to you, then ensure that you're throwing the dirt on the table so that they can give you that gift.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus. There is actually a really great question that came in from Callie Jacobs here. Callie asks, and this is a question that we get asked a lot, and so I'd be like stoked to hear kind of like how you guys think about this. With the virtual nature of not just Techstars Anywhere, but any virtual accelerator right now, what kinds of activities or programming made you feel connected to the other founders in your cohort and helped you build a sense of community? And I'm going to go to Jasmine, because Jasmine's program was entirely virtual. The program that Ken and Yemi and Marcus went through was mostly virtual, in that we did get together the first week, the middle week, and the last week, which changes that kind of dynamic a little bit. So we'll come back to that one, but I'll start with Jasmine, who just completed one where you guys didn't get together in person at all.
Yeah, we never got a chance to get together. At one point, one of my cohort members had an opportunity to fly into DC, so we grabbed coffee. But besides that, it was just like this on a Zoom call for 13 weeks. But we had a fun stuff Slack channel where we would just drop like tweets and get inside jokes to each other, and that really helped us to build community. And then we would ask each other for things often, for support, for connections, for resources, for intros amongst each other, and that helped us to connect with one another. But besides that, I've never seen any of them. We made a joke like we've never seen each other like stand up. One of our team members is 6'8". We never knew. But you know, you make the best of it that you can, and we just hope that after the world goes back to normal, we can get together for a reunion and grab drinks or something.
That's cool. And then anybody from the Techstars Anywhere, like, you had the added advantage of the fact that you got to get together in person like a couple of times, and so that definitely helps with the relationship building.
I like the CXO calls. So in our program, the CEOs had weekly, were they weekly or bi-weekly?
Mm-hmm. They were weekly
calls? Yeah, so the CEOs, it was like a, you know, cone of silence kind of calls. They're able to, I'm not a CEO, so I was not in those calls, and I'm not privy to what the kinds of things they were talking about, but other founders, so other founders were in CXO, and the X, you know, is a filler for other chief executive roles in, or chief C-suite roles in your company. And so those calls were really useful for us to be able to just vent sometimes and just, you know, talk about how tough our weeks had been, or to ask for help that it seems like, you know, only people who, you know, are CXOs could understand. And so just having that space to really, like, you know, connect on a personal level and be vulnerable with one another, and be, you know, encouraged to be vulnerable, is really invaluable, to be honest.
Yeah, thanks, Yemi. Like, one of the things that I want to just kind of like summarize, a lot of this comes down to this concept of intentionality, right? And if you listen to kind of some of the things we've been talking about, it's like, you know what you want to get out of it, like be proactive in the relationships that you develop with your mentors, you know, drive your own destiny here, and like make sure that you're getting what it is that you need, stay in communication. Like, this all comes down to this concept of intentionality, and whether it's Techstars or some other program or a local program or an incubator or something through a university or whatever it is. Anytime that we find ourselves in this situation where we remove physical proximity from the equation, What we lose is we lose some of those serendipitous moments of like just bumping into each other, right? Like you're not meeting anybody over at the coffee pot. Like nobody's looking over and like, you know, seeing your head down and coming over and tapping on your shoulder to pick you up. And so yeah, I think that the one thing that I would kind of use as an encapsulation of these stories that we've heard from these founders today is this concept of intentionality. And that is the idea that you own your own experience, right? And it is finding the people who you need to connect with and making sure you connect with them. It's understanding how to learn what you need to learn and then like using the resources at your disposal in order to learn those things. And most importantly, when it comes to relationships, is really being intentional about reaching out and asking people how they're doing, asking for help, being transparent, sharing what's going on with you so that they can step in and help you out. And so when we think about this whole concept of the way that the world changes when we move into a situation that's remote first, what it really does is it shifts that burden to us to be intentional about our own experiences and make our own serendipity, right? Like nobody like magically pops into a Zoom, well, let's hope nobody magically pops into a Zoom meeting. But like nobody just like magically pops into a Zoom meeting and winds up being like the person that you are, you know, looking to meet. So stay intentional, own your own experience. I want to go through and just answer a couple of really quick questions and make sure that we get everything in here. So Shaheb asks if their chances of getting accepted are lower if you're a solo founder. Jasmine, are you a solo founder or did you have a co-founder?
I'm pretty much a solo founder for intensive purposes of this program.
Yeah, I think one of the key things is if you are a solo founder, like, do you have people surrounding you and working with you that will enable you to get the job done that needs to be done, right? So whether you have a co-founder or not, largely irrelevant as long as you're able to have the team that's able to help you get the job done. Key factors that make Techstars accept a new business into the program. Does anybody remember the 6 things? I'm not gonna put you on the spot. It's team, market, progress, and idea. And I'll share with you, because we're doing an information session if anybody wants to learn more. Rachel, I hope this isn't like against the rules, but we're gonna invite everybody if they wanna learn more to join us for an information session tomorrow. There's a link there that will answer all of your questions. Is that okay, Rachel, that I just did that? All right, awesome. So you'll be able to join us for an Ask Me Anything where we'll talk all about any questions that anybody has specifically about Techstars Anywhere tomorrow so that we can kind of cover off on things here. Lisa asks, what virtual programs would you suggest to apply? The answer to that question is, I don't know. There's a ton of them because just about every program in the world right now is a virtual program. So the things that I would think about, first of all, are region or geography and your vertical or industry focus. And if you can find things that match up, you know, Yemi mentioned that they had done a GovTech Accelerator before. There's a lot of really great programs in Washington, DC, if that Washington, DC network is what you're looking for. So hopefully, I can see Rachel comes back on video. That means it's time to get the hook. So if you've got additional questions about Techstars or accelerators or anything like that, that'll be a chance to go ahead and ask any additional questions that y'all have. But to our founders that joined us today, thanks a ton. Appreciate you guys building businesses in Washington, DC. You know, a fantastic city and a great place to build. So thanks for that. And Rachel, thanks for the opportunity to be here with everybody today.
Of course. Thank you so much, Ryan, Yemi, Marcus, Jasmine, and Ken. We really appreciate all your insights and participating and being a part of DC Startup Week. Again, this year, I know Marcus and Yemi, you spoke last year's, and I think Ken as well. So thank you so much for that. So again, join us, Ryan speaking tomorrow. You could also reach out to any of the speakers through Attendify by sending them like private messages. Anything of insights, feel free to pop onto Attendify activity stream to be able to share it there. We're moving into a couple conversations happening at 4 o'clock now, the ins and outs of angel investing, as well as another conversation around building culture. So feel free to join that. You're able to access the Zoom links right in Attendify. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for Ryan for putting that together, this panel. We love and appreciate all your support every year. So thank you guys, and thank you so much for everyone attending.
All right, thanks everybody. Keep building.
All right, thank you.